I'm a stay-at-home mom. I went from cooking breakfast for her every morning and making lunch and snack time and doing activities to prison.
Hello and welcome to our Shine Brightly podcast, where we focus on people who are shining brightly all over the world. Today, we actually have a very special guest. I followed Bevelyn, who's with us today. I followed her on social media before I ever knew she would need GiveSendGo for anything. I saw her on social media taking a stand, and me and my husband would watch and get, courage. You get courage when you see other people standing up for things that you feel strongly about. And so as we watched Bevelyn's story play out, it actually instilled courage in us and you just flip sideways. Oh, there we go back. That it instilled courage in us, and that's what stories like these do. And so I wanted to reach out and see if that you would come on and share a little bit of your story with us. And so, Bevelyn, first, I just want you to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your background. Ooh, and bless you.
Thank you. Y'all forgive me. I switched from being in prison to in like normal climate, so my body is reacting. Let me just say this. GiveSendGo has been such a lifesaver for me and for my family. Like, people don't know this, but when I had thrown the black paint on the Black Lives Matter movement, we had a platform with PayPal at this point before we kind of came out, I guess, before the public knew we were conservative. PayPal took me off. They removed me, my ministry, and my best friend off. Venmo booted us off. And every GoFundMe that was created, some were false, but it doesn't matter. They deleted them. Anything with my name on it, they will delete. So you guys have been the only platform that's been safe for us to get the financial help that we need. And obviously, that financial help is so important because, I'm still getting sued. I got out and my federal case is now pretty much done, but I'm still getting sued by another abortion clinic in Tennessee. And there's also still more legal battles to go through to investigate my case and also to get the justice that we need. So GiveSendGo has been literally the holy grail for us being able to move and do anything.
Well, that is why we are here. When we started GiveSendGo, we said, let's be a platform that shares hope with people while they were fundraising, because we actually believe that there is a hope greater than what we see with our eyes. And then we found ourselves, similar to you, in a battle where the world said, no, we should be taking down people we disagree with. And we said, no, we're going to stand for freedom, even people we might disagree with. And it's been something that we've stood firm on, both our focus on hope and freedom. But you've also stood for some things. Tell us about your background and how you became involved in activism and the pro-life.
Well,
yeah,
it kind of crept on me when I first became a Christian. I didn't really have the heart to like go out, but God was challenging me to do so. And so we would go out and do like street ministry and minister to like homeless and people on drugs and things like that. And so that was the bulk of our ministry from 2014 to about 2019. Things shifted dramatically when Governor Cuomo legalized abortion up to birth. And then on top of that, with him legalizing abortion up to birth, you had COVID happen. You had BLM, which is a communist militia, come forward. You had Antifa. It was like 2020 and 2019 was like a jumble of like revolutionary changes our country was going through at the time. And I just felt like, aside from the fact that they want to kill babies at birth, they shut down jobs and they shut down people from working, yet people were still killing babies. And so these things started to point to a communist agenda. And I was like, nah, this is funny. And then with the BLM thing, the race war, I'm like, once again, we're being used to push a narrative that's bigger than us. I mean, I don't know if you heard, but the MLK files came out. They're even talking about that, how he was a communist. And there's a lot of stuff coming out. So it's like, again, this agenda being pushed forward to shift the paradigm of our nation. And I just happened to be right in the middle with the big mouth.
You actually did. You happened to be right in the middle. And And but sometimes God places us right in the middle, whether we want to
Right.
be there or not at the moment, because He needs us to be a voice for Him. I'm reading through
Right.
the Bible chronologically, and I'm seeing lots of people with big voices speaking out, where God said, "Hey, I want you to go speak," and it's not going to
Right.
be like the pleasant thing that everybody wants to hear, but I want you to say what I put in your mouth. And so walk me through what happened that day at the clinic. Like when you were there, what were your intentions? Like tell me, was it just a normal day of you going and saying, "This is what I do"?
Right. I mean, we had did a Jesus Matters rally. Okay. Police were present.
Okay.
I never got arrested. I never got a citation for protesting. Police were always there present because Planned Parenthood would call the cops on us constantly. But the cops had no merit to really arrest us because we weren't breaking the law. Okay. So for me to get indicted in 2020 for a hand injury, this hand injury kind of came out of nowhere. You understand? When Letitia James had sued me on Face and got an injunction against me, which means that I was not allowed to be within a certain amount, like a restraining order, basically.
Sorry.
I wasn't allowed to be within like 30 feet of the building. She didn't even mention a hand injury in the lawsuit. So I was federally sued for Face with Letitia James for the same rally, and then they federally indicted me on a criminal case for the same rally. The woman who claimed that her hand was injured did not go to urgent care until 5 days later for her hand. And they pinned that on me. And on the stand, the picture shows her left hand was injured. On the stand, she claimed her right hand was injured. But unfortunately, this is the thing. I did not start my GiveSendGo until after I was found guilty, I
Mhm.
think. And this is why. Because, no, until I was sentenced.
Right.
That's when I did it. This is why. I had a court appointed attorney. I was not interested in like just milking people for their money and just trying to get. No, if I couldn't afford a lawyer, I went and I got a court appointed attorney. And my court appointed attorney failed me. My court appointed attorney did not work as hard as he should have worked. He could have won this case and he didn't. And at that point, I had to launch the GiveSendGo because if I didn't get private help, I was screwed.
And we're seeing that over and over again on GiveSendGo. One of the things that make people the angriest is when we allow people to raise funds for legal defense. And that's
Right.
a crazy thing in my mind to think we live in the United States of America where everybody should be presumed innocent, that we have a system where, the left is saying, oh, it shouldn't be just the wealthy that get all these things. But yet in the legal system, unless you're wealthy, you get a court
That's
appointed
it.
assistance. And so we say we'll level the playing field. If somebody wants to help you with legal fees, that's totally legal in the United States. And we
Right.
watch people over and over again come to us and we say, we're not, just because someone's raising money for legal fees doesn't mean we don't want consequences if someone actually is guilty. Let them go to trial, let them be found guilty or innocent. Now, in your case, you didn't have the best lawyer to pull out these pieces of saying, wait, what hand was it again? Why did you wait 5 days? All these little discrepancies. And so you didn't have that. And we see what happens. And this is why, for me, being able to raise funds for a legal defense is so important. And I wish you had been able to get that sooner, because there
Right.
are people who want to step up and help you. But God is in control, and that is
Right.
actually an amazing part of this story. What do you say to those who claim that your actions were unlawful versus an act of protest? Because protest is fundamental to democracy and to the things that we live in this country, and we're you talked about Black Lives Matter, George Floyd, where the protests were going on, where they were burning down buildings and
Right.
terrorizing people. So
Right.
do you see any difference? Like, people are saying this was unlawful, or was it protest?
Yeah. So this is the thing. To say that, it's very hypocritical. Number one, you have to understand we have a First Amendment. The reason why we even became the nation that we became is because King George would not allow us to protest and raise our voice and have an opinion. So when we became the New World and we decided we no longer want to be a part of the UK, that was one of the main reasons. That's why it's the First Amendment. It was the first issue. It was the first right that our founding fathers decided to establish. which was the freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom of protest, period. So that is, excuse me, sorry guys, that is always going to be a priority. You cannot, first of all, it was never fair for them to make a law that infringed on the First Amendment in the first place. Faith was never supposed to be established as anything based on verbal opinion. If I say you're a murderer now, I'm dealing with the case in Nashville. They said because I said they're murdering babies, that's a form of verbal assault. That violates the entire Constitution. There's no such thing as verbal assault in America. We don't do verbal assault in America. So let's just understand something. You guys can't use your feelings and emotions to change a constitution that has kept this country intact for 400 plus years. It just doesn't work like that. We're the only one out of all countries in the world to ever keep a constitution that long, having not changed it. It has been destined by the Democrat Party and the communists to change it. And we're not, because it doesn't work. We see what happens when you start to try to change the culture of the Constitution. Unjust lawfare goes on, and next thing you know, you're using your political position to weaponize against people. So let's just put that out there. When it comes to the protests that those people did, I did not burn a building down. I did not punch people in the face. I did not brandish or use a weapon. I raised my voice. My voice was what was insulting to those people. My words of truth is what was insulting to those people. But my actions, as far as violent, I stream everything I do. They got my phone. They made me surrender my phone, or they were going to get a warrant for my phone. They looked for my phone. They looked for everything they could find. And let me tell you something about the FBI and the prosecutors. They will bring up any discrepancy that they find on you if it's not relevant to the case, just to present it in court and to damage your character. They found nothing. They couldn't find any fraudulent tax forms, anything of out of character for me to expose me. They had nothing. So they resorted back to using the very videos that I recorded publicly. And not one has come out of me putting my hands on someone, being violent with someone. It just has not happened. So anyone who says that, if you're listening strictly to the DOJ and you have not seen by now that they were malicious and they did the same thing to Trump, I don't know what to tell you.
You felt compelled to do this, standing out in front of abortion clinics and using your voice. Did you ever think, like, was there even a little like part of your brain that said, I wonder if I'll ever go to jail for this? I wonder if they'll ever find, like, was that even a thought, or were you like, I'm just like speaking loudly about what I think, and then I live in America. I should be able to say anything I want because freedom of speech is that important. It's way more dangerous for us to limit speech than speech itself. No matter what you say to me, you can't assault me. No, you could call me every name in the book right now, and my feelings might get hurt, and I might not like it. But you can't assault me. Like, so did you ever have a thought, hey, when I go out and I raise my voice and I stand there and I'm firm and vocal about what I believe in this and passionate, did you ever even have a like, I wonder if this will ever end with me having to, go to jail or prison?
When we did the Jesus Matters rally, when I threw the black paint, I knew there was a possibility that they would
not
put me in jail. I would catch a misdemeanor or something. But when it came to the Jesus Matters rally, it never crossed my mind. The fact that they would even cook up charges against me for that, when I say it is so fraudulent, and I wouldn't be surprised. And this is something else. I really think I'm going to extend my fund because I want to be able to pay for my civil case, but I really want to hire a private investigator to go behind the scenes and see about that hand injury, because something tells me they cooked that up.
And so just real quick, if you're watching right now and you want to give to the fund, click the link below or GiveSendGo.com/Bevelyn Beatty Williams, right?
Right.
So GiveSendGo.com/BEVELRY. Did I say it right? Beverly.
BEVELYN.
Oh, Bevelyn. Why did I say Beverly? And I know it's Bevelyn. Sorry, Bevelyn.
It's okay.
And then BEATTY. and then Williams.
That's right.
All one word there. And so,
Right.
yeah, please, she continues to need help. Go to her campaign. You can read updates. You can pray for her. You can support her by giving and sharing and telling other people about this story. So continue. Sorry for the interruption.
Right. No problem at all. Thank you. So I really, at this point, I still, even though I'm pardoned, details of that case have to be looked into because it was actually abnormal for Letitia James to sue me on behalf of Planned Parenthood. That was a back end deal. She basically did a favor for them. Okay. The hand injury coming about was something that obviously was cooked up. Just the 5-day gap alone says something funny, you know? And so, I just feel like at this point, we have to dig deep into this because again, you asked me, it never crossed my mind that they would even cook something up like that. So we're underestimating these people. We don't know how far they're willing to go and how much they're willing to break the law to make a law to hurt you. And so, yeah, I mean, we got to keep going. And no, I never would have thought they would be that cruel. I never would have thought I would have got 3.5 years. I never would have thought that a woman judge would be that ruthless towards me and mocked me. She mocked me before she sentenced me for my faith. She said, "Oh, you have a lot of letters coming in. Seems like you got a lot of supporters. So, I mean, your daughter will be okay. Your husband and your daughter figure it out." She said, "You're young. You'll get through this."
Do you believe?
Mocked me.
Yeah. Do you believe that there was more harsh treatment because of your beliefs and your faith, because of what?
Girl, please. If I was out here half naked, rapping, being a stripper, playing basketball, pushing the culture, twerking for Kamala, oh man, I would have got a slap on the wrist. If I was actually a real criminal, I would have got a slap on the wrist. I went to prison and I had more time than girls who have been stealing money, doing fraud, scamming. I got more time than them. So yeah, she gave me, and God forbid I would have been found guilty on conspiracy of faith. That would have gave me 10 years. She would have gave me them 10 years. Easy. Wouldn't have thought twice about it.
Sure. So jumping ahead a little bit, what was the hardest part of being in prison when you got that sentence? I think I had actually texted you and said, "Hey, we're having a gala," and you're like, "Yeah, I'm in the middle of this thing. I'd love to come, but I have to kind of wait and see where I'll be. But I'm trusting that it'll all work out." And then you found out that you were going to prison, and you have a little
Right.
baby. And as a mom, and this is your first baby, so not that it matters, but like first babies, it's like every moment you're like experiencing
Right.
every little thing. They grow so quickly. I'm sure that's probably one of the hardest parts of being in prison, but what are some of those hard things when you got that sentence and you actually had to go to prison? What was that like?
I'll say this. I have faced, Heather, I've faced humility and humiliation more than I think a lot of other people could ever understand. Going to prison, having to be strip searched, having to, at visitation, not sit too close to my husband, only hold his hands for a certain amount of time, being told when to get up, when to eat, only having 15-minute calls to call my family. So being mocked like that, being sentenced like that, and then being like thrown into a cage, the trauma and the heartbreak that I experienced, it's not for the faint of heart. What I went through is not for the faint of heart. My faith stayed. I thank God that my faith stayed. But what did nights of tears? Oh my God. When I first saw my daughter, it took 3 months. It took like in December for me to get approved for visitation. It took me 2 months to see her. I thought she would forget me. And when I saw her for visitation and she just jumped and, oh, she was so happy to see me. And I just cried as I hugged her because I was like, oh my gosh, she didn't forget me. And I was scared of just like losing the moments with my daughter, losing the things that I appreciate the most. I'm a stay-at-home mom. Like I spend every moment with my daughter. I went from cooking breakfast for her every morning and making lunch and snack time and doing activities to prison. And so it emotionally was a lot. I'm gonna tell you right now, if you don't serve Jesus and you go through something like this, it's enough to make you kill yourself. It's that bad.
And it leads me to the next couple questions is how did your faith sustain you? And did God teach you anything during this time? Because I bring myself to the story of Joseph, right? Like unfairly convicted, but yet he served well, even in prison when it was unfair. Like, what did God teach you through this time? Because God doesn't waste these bad things that happen in life. Were there lessons, and how did your faith flourish, and did it?
Right. So I'll use Joseph actually as an example. Joseph, his brothers were jealous of him because his dad spent more time with him. And basically, Jacob was teaching Joseph. He was teaching him principle. He was teaching him how to be a man of God. And he was more so just allowing him to be a studious son in the things of the Lord. And when Joseph got to prison, all of those things became practice. He had to put it in action. That's exactly what happened with me. Like, during this season, the Lord was just ministering to me, and I remained studious in Him and faithful in Him. But when I went to prison, my lifestyle as a Christian was in full on practice. I wasn't really preaching to the girls. I was walking and showing them what a Christian was by my actions. And in prison, let me tell you, when you go to prison, right, whatever you are on the streets, you're going to be the full mirror of that in prison. Prison is a world within a world. So everything gets around so fast. It's called inmate.com. Your actions and how you move, it says everything. So when they say they think here that you're a Christian and your actions don't match it, oh, the word gonna get out that you're not solid. So if you're dealing with like a snippet of homosexuality while you're in the streets, you're gonna be full blown gay in prison. If you're dealing with drug addiction, you're going to be full blown strung out in prison. If you're dealing with swindling, or if you're a liar, you're not honest, you don't keep up your word, you're not a woman of your word, it's going to be known about you in prison. And people treat you according to what you are. It's everything. You know how, like, in this, I've noticed that too, in prison, everything's black and white. When you're in the world, everything's gray. Like, you'll see, a guy talking to another guy, and it's just like, oh, they could just be friends. Maybe they're not gay. Not in prison. In prison, if you doing something like that, you're gay. You must be looking for a girlfriend. There's no gray. And so the crazy thing is, that's my element, black and white. So every move I made, it had to be black and white as a woman of faith. And so a lot of the girls would come to me looking for prayer, looking for someone to talk to. I walked in with like 3 Bibles. I came out with none. I don't know if I gave them all away. I had to give them, and I gave them strategically to girls that I knew God was telling me to give them to. And each girl that I met a girl that's doing 45 years for murdering her husband. Her husband was a part of the legal, like a federal agent or something, but he was abusive. He was sexually abusive to her and her children. So she did what she thought was the best thing to do at the time. And I remember us praying. God gave me a word for her. And then I remember He told me to give her my mirror Bible, and I gave it to her. And every time I would see her, she would tell me she's reading it. She would regurgitate to me what was going on. I'm like, wow, like she's really reading it. Like every move I made in prison was strategic. I knew I was on assignment, and I knew that whatever girl I dealt with, I had to make sure that I was keen on giving them what God needed them to have. And this is the thing too. 99, I would say 100%. No, 99. 99% of them girls in there, if they weren't in prison, they'd be dead.
Sure. Yeah.
It's mercy. And so I saw myself, and God would tell me this. He would say to me, you're my display of mercy. Like, I knew I wouldn't be there long, but I knew that I was God's display of mercy for these girls. I had a bunkie that was high on drugs all the time, worn out. And I remember by the time it was time for me to leave, the girls would be like, man, she's changed. Since you've been her bunkie, she's changed. She's not the same anymore. Like, I would listen to her, but I would also minister to her. And the big thing with ministry is you got to listen. You can't expect these girls to listen to you if you don't take the time to listen to them. So a lot of that played a part. Every day was a mission for me. Every day was I couldn't really focus on what was going on back home because there was so many lost women in prison. And I love women. I have a love for women. So it was just like, okay, this is the perfect opportunity to sow into them until my time is up.
Yeah, again, bad situation, but yet God turns it around and uses it for good, and w- what would be your message to other people who might be called to stand up for their beliefs? So that we're in a space now, and a friend of mine said it the best, I thought. She said, it's no longer like sin is hidden in the darkness. It's like seeping out. Like it is like coming out in full-blown celebration in our world. And so as Christians, if you say you're a Jesus follower at all, there are going to be times where we're called to stand up for our belief. There's no more like this middle road, wishy-washy. There never was. I'll speak
Right.
you out if you're lukewarm, right? But what
Right.
would you say to those who are called to stand up for their beliefs, such as any Christian out there who's listening,
Right.
even when it means facing the consequences? What's the courage that can be instilled for people?
Well, it's crazy because I've been saying this constantly, but I'm gonna keep saying it. First of all, he told us he would never leave us. He would never forsake us. And he told us that no weapon formed against us shall prosper. God's words are not something that you just hear to feel comfortable for them to fade. They are living, they are promises, and they shall come to pass for those who believe in them. Okay? Daniel went into that pit, and Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, they did go into the furnace, but they did not burn. They were not consumed. I did not burn. I was not consumed by that prison sentence. I did not get the time that they wanted me to have. The weapon was formed, but the weapon didn't prosper. And so then from that, if you don't get nothing else out of the Bible, I think these two, take it with you. Take those two and then circle it back to Ecclesiastes. Solomon had to experience life and everything that came with it, for it to all boil down to one thing: serve God. Do his will and serve God. I'm going to tell you right now, husband can be taken, child can be taken, house can be taken, car, everything you have can be taken from you, but God will still be there. God is not going anywhere. When the dust settles, God will always be there. And God is what's going to keep you in trying times, such as the ones I've been through. So for me, if I could tell you anything, serve God. Serve God, give him the fullness that he deserves, because he's going to give you everything you deserve and more and beyond and above what you could ever imagine. So give him his just diligence and serve him. He is absolutely worth it. And that's just the truth.
I love that in the story. I was actually thinking of the story of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, and I had heard a pastor say recently that they came out of the fire, and not only were they not singed at all, they didn't smell like smoke. And I think so often we get out and we smell like what we've been through, right? Like people walk around and we carry that like, that was unfair. That was a hurt. I have this trauma. And I'm not dismissing those things that happen in life, but they came out and they didn't even smell like what they went through. And I can see that in you, like you've been through this trauma, this hardship. And like, I'm not going to let people around me that meet me go, oh, she's been through something really hard. I can feel it on her. I can feel this heaviness. No, you're like, no one's going to smell this on me because this was all for the glory of God. Like I was able to stand for my principle. And I love that. I love that about you. I was going to ask you, what was your last phrase? Like, what would you tell everybody? And I think you just told everybody what, if they're listening, what you would be saying to them. How do people keep up with your story? Where can they find out more, follow you, things like that? Give us
Right.
the deets.
Okay, so my website info, no, it's at wellministries.org, and our email info at wellministries.org, all on the website. My Facebook, Bevelyn Beatty, I think it's Bevelyn Beatty Williams, yeah. And my Instagram, which is Mrs. Bevelyn W. Follow me there. I'm probably going to start posting more on X, um, which is Mrs. Bevelyn W as well, because they just seem to, Facebook still kind of like bans certain stuff. And so X is a little bit more free. So I'm going to start posting more there. And yeah, guys, email me. I get emails. Heather, you have my phone number, obviously, but you guys email me and we can connect. And I'm very easy to get in touch with. I'm not like difficult. And so if I can make something happen, if I need to be on something for you or any way I can be of assistance to you, just email us.
That's amazing. On GiveSendGo, one of the features we have that some of the other sites don't have is that, along with a give button, which if you want to give, go to the campaign listed below, share this campaign as well. But we also have a pray now button. And I can see that you've had like over 400 prayer messages where people are just reaching out. And I've heard from so many people that have found themselves in hard situations that said, you know what, the money is needed. Like, I need this. It's helped me like get the best lawyer or help with the medical bills or whatever. But being able to go in while I'm going through this rough time and read 400
Yes.
messages from people saying,
Yes.
listen, you're not alone. I'm praying for you.
Yes.
Did you get to read some of those messages?
Oh my gosh. The messages when I was in jail, the letters, everything. I read them all because it's just like letting me know I'm not alone. You
Mhm.
know what I mean? Like you got those people who did that. It's like they went through this with me. That $5 donation is literally a person taking partnership in my situation. So I don't care how much it was. It was like every donation, every letter, every email, every prayer. It just for me felt like this person was partnering with me and what I'm going through. And they were letting me know I'm not alone.
So if you want to partner, again, click below, give, share, pray, watch for updates, follow the campaign so that you can hear when she's updated the campaign. She will list her contact information in this episode as well. I just want to thank you so much for coming on, for connecting, sharing your story. Of courage, of standing up, speaking truth in a world that truth can rub the wrong way. And the Bible actually says it the best, go figure, where it says, the fragrance of God, and I'm gonna butcher it right here, but it smells like life, the smell of death to some. It doesn't,
Right.
we don't stop speaking it though. We're
Right.
not responsible for the outcome. We just need to continue speaking for truth. So that keep speaking truth. We can't wait to see what else God has for you. Thank you for using GiveSendGo. Again, if you're watching this podcast, click on the link below, and partner in this. This isn't over yet. This isn't over yet. What can we be praying for? We have a lot of people who watch this that are prayer people. Well, how can we be praying for you in these next few months?
The prayer for right now is that I do find a good lawyer to help me with my civil case that I'm dealing with FACE and to get connected with some lawyers for the case that I was just charged on. Again, we the party is just getting started. We can't just accept a pardon because these people consequences have to come for what they did. So the prayer for just those proper connections to happen and them to be effortless for the help needed to really get recompense and get justice where it needs to be. Also, just continuous prayers for my husband and myself and my daughter, um, and prayer for me. I'm the type kind of sweep things that hurt me under the rug, and I get strong, but then I get emotional, and then I can certain times it'll all kind of hit me at once. So I just want people to pray for me to just be in shalom and for the residue of what I experienced to kind of just go away. Like I'm glad I'm humbled by the situation, but the trauma that came from all of that, the humiliation. I just want peace of heart there about that because I was really hurt. This situation really hurt me. And it was 3 years of hurt. And it was 3 years of trying to trust God while kind of seeing things not go the way that I thought they would go. Even now. Do you understand what I'm saying? I don't want that residue of that trauma to be there. So pray for me in that area.
All right. Well, we will definitely be praying for you. And again, visit this campaign. The link is below. Contact Bevelyn. Let her know that you want to be a part in keeping up with what she's doing, praying for her, giving to her. And I hope this podcast encourages you to step out and do what's right and be courageous. That is what God has called us to do. And he says that the bold walk, the righteous walk around bold as lions. And that's what we should be walking around as. So that is our challenge to you on this this Shine Brightly podcast. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time. Thank you, Bevelyn, for coming.
Thank you. God bless you. Bye.